A 19 Solutions update on a sextortion story we continue to follow. The father of a teen who took his life as a result of the crime testifies in front of lawmakers yet again to continue to fight for victims. Brandon Guffey among several witnesses who went before a U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee this morning. The father and South Carolina rep continuing his emotional fight to get laws passed to protect children on social media platforms and hold big tech companies legally responsible. Guffey's son Gavin took his life when he was extorted and harassed. The teen thought he was talking to a young woman online, convincing him to send compromising pictures. Well, Brandon Guffey got Gavin's law passed in his son's honor. He's worked with other states to make sextortion a crime. Well, just last month, FBI agents extradited a 24-year-old Nigerian suspect. His charges include child exploitation and cyberstalking in connection with Gavin's death.
The ball is in your court with a bill to protect American lives. Please don't let us down again. I've witnessed over 40 teens take their lives since Gavin just due to sextortion, while we as lawmakers fight amongst ourselves. Will it take one of your own children or grandchildren to finally get fed up enough to move?
Well, members of the Senate Judiciary Committee say they will continue to fight against big tech by reintroducing several bills within the next few months. Now, earlier this year, Braden's law passed, making sextortion a felony right here in Ohio.